Okay, I'm Don Raistakka, and we're in the upper floor of the Appelo Archives building, which was an Appelo store, the number 3 Appelo store. And it was started as a store by the Schulers earlier, and then it was converted into one of the Appelo stores. Now, Burton, here we're on the 2nd floor. Burton, Carlton's brother, sold appliances at this level. General merchandise and groceries were down at the lower level. But just a little background of these stores in the area. When this area was settled all the way from the KM Hill down to here in Naselle, stores, the riverboats was the mode of transportation. And for the larger boats, as far as they could get up the river, that's where the first stores were in the area. That's true in Deep River, Grays River, here in Naselle, and all along the Columbia. That's where the stores were started and the communities developed. But Appelos weren't the first here. Others started the first stores in each of these areas, and some others along the Columbia. But the Appelos' number 1 store was in Deep River. And Carlton's parents started that store. And there had been competitors there, the Anderson store and the Co-op, but they were the real fire plugs, and they took over the store business in the area. Agnes Bayou was her name, the mother, extremely energetic woman. Anyway, just to briefly mention, the Deep River store was the first store and where the phone company developed. And we thank the phone company for the work they're doing with the archives and helping us along. Then the second store was in Grays River. It was an old creamery building, and they started their store there, and they were able to outcompete their neighbor store that had been there for a lot of years. So, and then in this store was the third store that started. And excellent store it was, but it also had a competitor on the lower river that was operating at the same time. So that's a little bit of the history I know. I'm sort of a newbie here because I've only moved back here 66 years ago after being gone 65 years. But I did know the Appelo family and feel very appreciative of their efforts. Now I want to mention one thing before I forget. They used to take orders at homes and deliver. And they carried the finances of a lot of families. So you could charge your groceries until payday came, and then you paid the store. And going back to the Deep River store, Agnes used to take the train up to Salmon Creek and wherever the logging camp was at the time, and she would take orders and then deliver them there. So there's quite a history on how the Appelos conducted their business. My family came in, or my first grandfather came here in 1880, and he was from northeast Finland, Koillismaa. That means northeast Finland. It's an area that was only occupied by Sami, the Lapland people, up to close to 200 years ago. And then a few families, 40 families, came into Kuusamo area and some of the other areas around it. And the people that moved to what's now known as the Rosburg area, it was the Seal River precinct in early times, and they, in their histories, they were all connected, or there were families that were related somewhere in the past. The same thing happened with a lot of people in the Naselle area, which was a bigger chain migration, and they were from an area called Keski-Pohjanmaa, which means Central Northland. And they similarly, many of their backgrounds, you find that people are interrelated. There was a third migration that was fairly large too, and these were Swedes. from Värmland in Sweden. And you found their migration. It was in Deep River, Salmon Creek, and Grays River mostly. And they were, again, interrelated. One person would come, then pretty quick the neighbor was here, and then his uncle was here, and so on. But interestingly, Värmland is that part of Sweden where the first New Sweden colony was set up in Delaware. And it's a little coincidence that some of these people even found some Finnish in their bloodlines that migrated in the Swedish migration. But having mentioned these, I want to point out that in this area, it's been constant transition from people moving in and moving out. And we go back to the very first people that came here, as Carlton points out in his book on the pioneers in the area, is that some people would come out but find out it was, if they were homesteading a place, it was a lot of work, and they moved on. And a lot of the Finns that came in this area took over places. Others did homestead places, like my grandfather, that although he came in 1880, he didn't get here till 1885, and he bought his property from Northern Pacific Railroad. He left a little bit for Weyerhaeuser to pick up later, but that was the case with a lot of people. Now the archives here, of course, doesn't want to totally emphasize the Finns and Finnish, because this really is a community organization. And Carlton always wanted to cover what I best call the Naselle Grays River School District, all the way from Nema to the KM to along the Columbia River. Then he wanted to expand it really to cover this part of Northwest United States. And he was constantly gathering information from all over. And I remember as early as being a child already, Carlton was coming to family homes asking for pictures or history. So that's a little bit of the history here.